Bronco Nation, my game preview for Boise State versus San Jose State. Boise State 2-3 facing off against the 1-4 San Jose State Spartans. The game taking place on October 7th at 6 p.m. Mountain Central Time, CBS Sports Network. Boise State is favored by 70.7%. This is a home game for the Broncos, and they are given a 9.5 point advantage per Vegas. Now, 1-4 Boise State versus the San Jose State team that's 1-4 at home. This looks like this should be a gimme easy win for the Broncos, right? Well, that is a 1-4 Spartan team that has played two Power 5 teams that are both top 20 in the country and two Group of 5 programs that are both 4 or more wins so far. Toledo 4-1, Air Force undefeated. This is not going to be a bottom tier easy test. This is not a typical 1-4 program. This is a San Jose State team that returns the top passer in the conference from last season. It's a San Jose State team that has looked competitive so far, especially against some of these top tier programs, even if their record doesn't reflect that. And this is going to be a challenge for Boise State, who is coming off of what could potentially be a season-defining loss for Boise State. It already is a season-defining loss. It could potentially end up being a program-defining loss for this coaching staff if Boise State does not get back on track. They are now 2-3. Boise State cannot afford, for the sake of this coaching staff, cannot afford to finish off the season any worse than 8-4. I 100% believe that if Boise State finishes up the season 7-5 or worse, that Andy Avalos will be fired. And Boise State right now has 3 losses already and is going to be facing a Fresno State, an Air Force, and a Wyoming teams that all 3 of those programs could potentially hand Boise State a loss. They are going to be as hard a challenge, if not tougher, than Memphis, a game that Boise State came into and did not live up to the challenge. The reason the Memphis game is so troubling is not so much that Boise State lost to Memphis, but the fact that they have programs as good as, if not better than Memphis, on the schedule ahead of them. And the loss to Memphis signifies that Boise State could be headed down a path to one of the worst seasons in their FBS record. In their FBS history, this could be one of the worst seasons on record for them. And changing that storyline, changing that direction, that path, all starts with this all-important game versus San Jose State, which has become one of the most important games of the season for this Boise State staff to try and change things and get themselves back on track. This is going to be a very interesting game to preview because not only is this the first time Boise State is matching up against San Jose State since the 2020 Mountain West Championship game, and we'll talk about the series history between these two teams, but this is also a very interesting game to preview because we're going to be getting a very different looking Boise State offense in this one. We'll talk about that. We get to our key players, and we get to the keys to the game for Boise State. But I watched Andy Avalos' presser, the coaching staff presser, just prior to making this game preview, and I've got to tell you, I was concerned after the loss. And I am more concerned after watching that presser. That presser did not indicate a coaching staff that is going to be, that has a plan to come in and attack this game aggressively with a focused, dialed-in offense. The presser gave me no indication that this coaching staff is going to be making direct choices, that is going to be picking something and sticking with it. It's going to be making the hard decision and pushing forward. It gave me a coaching staff from head coach to offensive coordinator, primarily looking at the offense, that indicated to me that this is going to be a team that is going to be feeling their way through this game and trying to find something that works versus picking a path and sticking to it, right or wrong, but at least putting a product on the field that they're confident in. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the, like I said, keys to the game and the key players. So we're looking at this game, and it is going to be a very tough one to predict, a very tough one to preview. And I'm going to be giving you the series history, the key players, the keys to the game, and a score prediction at the end. So make sure you stick around all the way to the end. As always, I want to hear your own score predictions and your own thoughts on this game. So, series history between these two teams. Boise State is 14-1 versus San Jose State. They started off the series in 1978, Boise State getting the first win 30-15, and then they continued a 14 unbroken winning streak against the Spartans all the way through 2019, winning 52-42. Then 2020, Boise State meets up against San Jose State in the Mountain West Championship game, and Boise State lost that game 20-34. That was the first Mountain West Championship game that I actually previewed and reviewed on this channel. 2020 was the first season I started doing videos for my Bronco Blameyer account here. So this is going to be an interesting game for Boise State. The last game in the series was a loss chance for revenge, but this is also a very different team than that 2020 team. That 2020 loss put Boise State on a very different path. Brian Harsin left not because of the loss. He was already in the process at that point of potentially moving on, and he did end up moving on shortly after that. Boise State didn't go to a bowl game. Players opted out, and Boise State ended up and Brian Harsin ended up leaving, and the new era of Boise State of the last 3 years started shortly after that. So this is kind of a interesting game in that case. That this is a chance for Boise State to show that they've progressed, their development has been made. That that 2020 Mountain West Championship game was the point that this new era began, and now we get to see after 3 years what has Boise State done. It doesn't look good right now. It really doesn't. The fan base is very, very antsy. The fan base is very, very negative right now, and for good reason. And this is going to kind of be that pinnacle point game for Boise State to say there's still hope in this program. There's still a reason to be excited about this team. This is a conference game. The goal of a Mountain West Championship is still totally in front of the Boise State Broncos. Their season goals of a Mountain West Conference win and a bowl win are both of those completely inside of their control. They control their future and their destiny right now. But there is going to have to be something very special that happens on the blue for Boise State fans to start to feel like they're in control of their own destiny throughout the rest of this season. So, last time Boise State and San Jose State played, Boise State lost. Can they make up for that? Can they get the win this time? Well, key players towards getting a Boise State win, well, number one is going to be Maddox Madsen. However you cut it, he is going to get playing time. I predicted in my game review that he would get the start. I'm going to talk about my keys to the game, whether I'm still leaning towards that, but from the presser, they are going to be giving him significant playing time. Both quarterbacks are getting reps with the ones this week in practice, and they are going to be going with some kind of system that gives both of these quarterbacks reps. They were talking about how Maddox Madsen does better in the drop back passing game just passing game in general seems to be Maddox Madsen's strength, but Taylor Green still presents an ability and a strength in the running game, and they don't want to take that out. So they are looking at some kind of split. They said they didn't want to make it 50-50, but there's going to be some kind of split. So Maddox Madsen, whether he gets the start, whether he plays the primary amount of reps or not, he is going to have an impact on this game, and it's going to be more than just coming in for a drive. He is going to have a role in this game, and this is going to be a big one for him and for the future of this program to see how he performs. Can he run this offense more efficiently? Can he show the promise he's shown so far in the big moments at the end of the games? Can he come in early in a matchup and still show that same level of success? Is this a turning point game where Boise State moves in the direction of the redshirt freshman, my height, 5'10", 5'9", I'm 5'9.5", but his stats say he's 5'10", but I mean, he's right on the edge of 5'10", because we're right about the same height, standing next to each other. But the 5'10" freshman, can he supplant the Taylor Green giant stature quarterback that's supposed to be the future of this program? Does the future shift based on the performance of Maddox Madsen? There's a lot riding on this game, not just for this game and getting a win here, but also for the future of this Boise State football team. So far, 23 of 32, 319 yards passing, 68.8% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns. He has scored on 4 out of the 6 true drives he's led, not counting the Washington game when he comes in at the end, but the 6 drives that he's actually been put in a position where Boise State was trying to score. He has scored or led scoring drives on 4 out of the 6 drives that he has led, and completed almost 70% of his passes with no interceptions. That is an incredible stat. The freshman has been basically perfect when he has touched the ball. He's put the ball in some positions that he's gotten lucky on, but the luck seems to ride through him because he keeps completing over and over and over again, even in situations where the pass seemed like there was a chance for the defender to make a play on the ball. The wide receiver came up with the play, which seems to be the opposite story for Taylor Green, who keeps putting balls into harm's way, and they keep getting picked. Maddox Madsen, given more primary playing time when the defense is still fresh early on, will that be a different story? He did almost throw a pick in his first drive for Memphis when he came in the first half. He almost threw a pick on a deep pass to Strawn that the defender dropped, partially because of some defensive effort from Strawn, but that could have been an interception early on. So do we see some of those freshman-type mistakes start popping up, or do we see the perfect reign continue here and lead Boise State down a different path this season? It's going to be a big storyline, and he's going to be a key player for this Boise State program, regardless of the amount of reps that he gets. He's going to be getting significant ones that are going to make an impact on the game. Key number 2, regardless of who starts at quarterback, this player is going to need to have a huge game to try and restore some consistency or to maintain some consistency in this offense. There's not going to be consistency at quarterback. There's not. Right now, there is a quarterback battle that's going to be taking place in game, where the coaches are trying to phrase it that way or not. That is what they are saying. And there's going to have to be one player at least that can bring some stability. That one player who has been the focal point, the entire strength of this offense throughout this season so far, Ashton Jeanty, the NCAA all-purpose, I'm stumbling with my words, the NCAA total yardage leader for the NCAA this season in rushing, passing, and receiving combined. Ashton Jeanty, he has taken over for this program. He has been the force to be reckoned with, and even on nights when he seemed to have somewhat off games, North Dakota last week versus Memphis, he's still gone for 3-4 touchdown games. So last week, not his best performance. They were aware of him. They knew about him. There's no surprise with Ashton Jeanty now. There shouldn't have been any surprises coming into the San Diego State game, but he still seemed to be able to run right over them. But they are keyed in and focused. Every team the rest of the way out is going to know about Ashton Jeanty after his 205-yard performance and his cementation in those record books right now so far, leading NCAA. They know he's the offense for this team. 489 yards rushing, 5.1 yard average, 8 touchdowns, 338 yards receiving, and 4 touchdowns through the air. Last week, after a 205-yard performance versus San Diego State, only 82 yards, went from an 8.9-yard average versus San Diego State to a 3.6-yard average. Was much, much less efficient, at least in the rushing game last week versus Memphis. But Maddox Madsen seemed to be relying on him as a key target, so I'm sure when the freshman is out there and the passing game starts opening up, he's going to be looking at least as a dump-off, but even as a primary route option, going to be looking at Ashton Jeanty. And Ashton Jeanty is going to have a strong, consistent beginning-to-end game to keep this offense on track, regardless of who's out there at running back. And the third key player, and this might be a surprise for some people because he really hasn't been on the radar this season, is Billy Bowen, 6'1", 200-pound wide receiver. He doesn't necessarily rack up physically against some of these other guys that you see on the roster, and especially not against a wide receiver like McAllister. But McAllister has cemented himself as the number 1 option for Boise State, and we've been looking for that number 2 wide receiver threat. You've never seen in Boise State's past just the one wide receiver look, but that seems to be what they've primarily gone to this season. McAllister's been the guy to step up, and nobody else has really stepped up as that secondary wide receiver. Well, Billy Bowen's here, who has been, like I said, only pretty much outside of the radar for fans, and it seems for the quarterback this season, only 139 yards receiving. He exploded last week when Maddox Madsen was on the field. 3 receptions for 89 yards. So he only had 139 yards receiving on the season. Well, 89 of those, the vast majority of those yardage, came last week versus Memphis when Maddox Madsen was on the field. He was a primary target for Maddox Madsen. I believe all 3 receptions that he had were from number 4. So this is obviously a guy that Maddox Madsen is comfortable throwing to. He was a deep threat for Boise State last year. We thought he could come in and play in that role this season as well. We thought he might even be able to establish himself as the primary wide receiver, or at least compete with McAllister as one of the top 2 guys. We really thought Bowens had that potential, and we haven't seen it so far this season. But Maddox Madsen seems to know where he is and is trying to get the ball to him, and maybe he gets that opportunity to step up. Regardless, the wide receiver core as a whole is going to need to step up and provide some options for the freshman coming in here and having I don't know if he's going to necessarily get the start right now, but he is going to be getting major playing time for the first time this season as a first look option, and he is going to need to have the wide receiver core step up because this is going to be some high stress environment. There's a lot riding right now. It's not kind of one of those situations where you get thrown in the game and the game is almost out of hand at that point. You're just coming in, no pressure. I mean, there's a massive amount of pressure, obviously, but you haven't done anything to contribute to the team being where they are. They're just going to you to see if they have a chance. So at that point, there is huge pressure to come out and perform in those high-stress situations, but at the same time, you're kind of coming out and you're loose and you're ready and you're just wanting to show what you've got. There's a big difference when you're starting off at the beginning of the game and you're trying to establish, and you are now going to be part of the reason why the team ends up where they are at the end of the game. There's a little bit of a different level of expectations there. So this is going to be some little bit of different jitters, different vibes. He is going to be thinking about it. He's not just getting out there and not being able to think and he's just playing. Now maybe he gets in his own head a little bit coming into this game with the expectations and all the eyes on him. He's going to need the wide receiver core to step up and continue to provide him the options that he's been able to find a little bit better than Taylor Green so far. Their wide receiver core is going to need to continue to provide those consistent threats with a defense that is maybe a little bit more ready for him than the previous defenses were, with the coaching staff being very clear that they're going to be looking to run both quarterbacks. So Billy Bowens, a chance to step up. He's been a key player for Maddox Madsen in the past, and especially last week. Maybe a big chance for him to have a huge game, and he or other members of the wide receiver roster are going to need to be able to let Maddox Madsen continue to have that perfect record that he's shown so far. All right, key players for San Jose State, because this is not a game happening in a vacuum. This is a game happening against a very good San Jose State Spartan team that is 1-4, but that's based on the record they've played so far. This is a San Jose State team that is going to give Boise State a solid run. This is a quarterback for them with Chevan Cordero. He's going to be my number one player for San Jose State, my key player for San Jose State. 1,022 yards passing so far, 6 touchdowns, 2 picks. I also has 92 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. He's former quarterback at Hawaii that came over. Boise State's faced him in the past, and he has been a dual threat guy for them. I mean, he's not dual threat level like maybe, Plumlee was, but he is a dual threat quarterback that has mobility, that can make plays, and especially when the play breaks down, he can get his legs involved in the running game. And Boise State has been very vulnerable against rushing quarterbacks versus Memphis. They gave up over 70 yards to Plumlee. Versus San Diego State, they gave up over 80 yards to Maiden. And versus Memphis, versus Seth Hennigan, who is primarily a passing guy but still has some legs on him, they gave up over 60 yards rushing to him. This is an opportunity where they're going up against a quarterback who can throw the ball. He's the Mountain West returner for passing this season, coming back from last year. He is the number one threat passing, and he's going to go up against a secondary that has not been able to stop the pass and also provide a running game opportunity that Boise State's not been able to stop those running quarterbacks this season. And the running quarterbacks have just been able to pick up pretty much 6 yards at least whenever they've wanted to take off and go for it. So he is going to be a primary threat. When he takes the ball into the air, however, the primary threat is going to be Nick Nash, the 6'3", almost 200-pound wide receiver. Had a huge game to open up versus USC, and he leads all wide receivers on San Jose State's roster by 11 catches. He has 25 catches on the season for 234 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is a big guy. He's a guy that they have good chemistry between him and Cordero, and it's a Boise State secondary that has struggled against these tall, fast, or let's just be honest, they've struggled against all wide receivers, but especially wide receivers like this guy that are going to be able to test the deep ball against a defense that's not been able to cover it very well so far this season. It's not, however, just the offense that Boise State has to worry about. They have new quarterback coming into the game, and even when they don't have the new quarterback in the game, they'll have Taylor Green, who is not going to be able to develop consistency throughout this one because there's going to be new quarterbacks shuffling in and out. And somebody who's going to be making the job harder for whoever is on the field is going to be the defensive lineman Trey Smith, 6'5", 258-pound monster, who's had 28 tackles so far this season, 3 sacks for negative 30 yards, and a forced fumble. This could be an opportunity for him to have a huge game, especially against a redshirt freshman who's coming in here making his first primary playing time opportunity versus San Jose State team that is going to be challenging you on offense. And when you come out on your own side with the offense, you're going to have to be struggling to perform. There's going to be a lot of pressure on you to perform and a lot of pressure to get that ball downfield. This is a guy that's going to make it difficult, whether Boise State's running the ball or they're dropping back to pass. This is a guy who can make heck in the backfield for you, and it's going to be very, very hard going up against him, whoever is out there at quarterback. So Boise State's got their hands full. What do they need to do to win this game? Well, the number one key is make a clear choice and stick to it. The biggest concern I have from the press conference is that Boise State doesn't sound like they're doing that. It sounds like they're saying, we have no idea what to do. We have this amazing on-paper athlete in Taylor Green who we don't know how to use. We really don't. We've brought in an offensive coordinator who's a good offensive coordinator but doesn't run a system that actually aligns with the strengths of what this quarterback brings. He's great with his legs. He's good on the run, but we're trying to run this balanced attack system that emphasizes a heavy, deep passing game. None of our wide receivers can get open deep for the pass, and we don't know what to do with him. However, we have this freshman who's come in and played in key situations and done amazing and opened up the offense with his arm. He doesn't have that same mobility. He doesn't have that same physical stature, but he has the ability to throw the ball. What are we going to do? We don't know. It doesn't sound like a Boise State, unless they're just trying to play the bumbling card so that the defense for San Jose State has to prepare for both, and that's definitely possible, and I really hope that's what they're doing. But unless that's what they're doing, It sounds like a Boise State offense that doesn't have any idea what they're going to do. They're just hoping that one of these guys takes over the game and makes a big play, and then they can lean in on that. And it's just going to be kind of opportunistic. They were saying in the press conference that, Maddox Madsen has that ability with his arm. He's really shown that they're having a lot of lost yardage situations on first down where they're not making up for these short yardage second and third downs. And in the drop back passing game, Maddox Madsen is definitely the one that presents the stronger threat. However, at the same time, they've said they don't want to lose what Taylor Green brings in the running game. And boy, the running game is still a focus for this program. And they really don't know where to go with it. And so Boise State has got to make up their mind. They have to make a decision. Butch Hannon said, it's not going to be 50-50 because you want to have consistency, you want to have stability. You're not going to have consistency and you're not going to have stability with this game plan, but you want to at least have some thought process of, okay, this is our primary guy. We're going to move the other guy in situationally, but this is the guy we're going with, and this is the guy that we're going to stick with. There's three scenarios I'm going to present for you for what I think Boise State might do in this. And they're going to be the should do, but they probably won't, the should do, but they might, and what I actually probably think they will do. So what Boise State's offense should do in this game is they should stop all of this attempt to make Taylor Green into a pocket passing quarterback, actually adapt the offense to his strength, run an RPO system that gives Taylor Green the ability to make decisions about running or handing the ball off or moving outside the pocket to either throw or run. That's what they should be doing with this offense. Will Boise State do that? No, I don't think they will. Here's what they should do if they're going to go with this two-quarterback system. And again, it's the one that I think they should do, and they might do, but it's not my number one most predicted option. What they should do is they should go to Maddox Madsen as the primary starter for them. He should, because they're already saying we're going to stick with this offensive system. Well, the offensive system works for Madsen. Madsen is the one that runs his offense the best because it's an offense designed for quarterbacks like him. They brought Bush Hamdan in, who's only had quarterbacks like him, like Maddox Madsen, and he designed a offensive system that worked to Maddox Madsen, not to Taylor Green. Not intentionally. He wasn't looking at the roster and saying, okay, I'm going to make this offense work for our number 2, 5'10" quarterback. No, he thought, well, hey, Taylor Green is super athletic. Look at all this athletic prowess. Look at his height. Look at his running ability. Look at his arm potential. We can take all that talent and we can jam it into the offense that we want to run. He'll be talented enough to adapt. That's what they did. Versus looking at the talent, the incredible talent that Taylor Green is, and saying we're going to build an offense around him so we can use his talents to the maximum potential. That is not what they did. They went in and they designed a normal, pretty vanilla, pretty average, balanced attack offense that is being called pretty effectively, and took a amazing running quarterback and tried to slam him into that system. Maddox Madsen fits the system. He should be the primary starter. They should start him off the bat. He should be the guy that gets the prime amount of reps in that system. And Taylor Green should be brought in as kind of a short yardage option, red zone guy, or if you want to bring in a potential to run or pass the ball, do an RPO and do it situationally throughout the game. That's what they should do, and they might. They might go in that direction because, again, they are talking this talk about they want to have some stability. They don't want it to be 50-50. They're not being specific on the amount of reps, but they do want someone to be the primary starter. Here's, however, what I think is going to happen. I think that they're going to trot out one of these two guys, probably Taylor Green, to start off the bat, and then they're going to see how it goes. They're going to run Taylor Green, Boise State. The first play, Ashton Jenny gets 6 yards on the carry. Okay, Taylor Green stays out there, and they keep going. Boise State then loses a yard on the first carry. Maddox Madsen drops out. Now they're in a situation where they're more pass heavy. They might run the ball, but they also might throw the ball, and so they're going to have Maddox Madsen out there for the throwing situations, and they're going to alternate them. Now Maddox Madsen picks up some yardage. He stays out there. He stays out there till he takes maybe a big sack or something, or he makes a mistake. Now Taylor Green comes back out, or maybe Maddox Madsen leads a touchdown drive, and then Taylor Green comes back out on the next run, or Taylor Green's out, or Maddox Madsen's out there all the way up to the red zone, and in the red zone they have their package that they like with Taylor Green, so they trot Taylor Green out in the red zone and the drive stalls out because he's now coming into the game raw. He's not adjusted to the flow of the defense, and they have to kick a field goal. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be an absolute mess. I think nobody's going to have a clear indication of where they're supposed to be or what they're supposed to do. Neither quarterback's going to feel secure in the system. So both of them are going to be playing stressed. They're not going to be playing loose. They're not going to be making the right decisions. They're going to be forcing balls into places they shouldn't, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare. That's what I think is going to happen. The key to Boise State winning is for them to avoid that. Pick one quarterback, make him your guy. I think it should be Maddox Madsen. Not because I think he's the best quarterback on this roster, but because I think he's the best quarterback for the offense that Boise State dog-headedly decides to continue to run. If they're going to run Bush Hamden's offense the way that he is calling it, Maddox Madsen should be the starter because he's the one that will be able to effectively run that offense. Taylor Green should be used as a situational guy. Bring him in primarily to use his legs or to force the defense to consider the use of his legs for short yardage situations or gimmick plays throughout the offense. And unfortunately, Taylor Green is not going to want to stay in that system, and we're going to see him transfer out. But if they're going to stick with this system, if they're going to stick with this offensive system, you have to put the best guy that can run it the most effectively, and that best guy for the system is Maddox Madsen. So key one is not necessarily start Maddox Madsen, start whoever you want to, but make a clear choice. If you choose to go with Taylor Green, make him the primary starter, and maybe use Maddox Madsen situationally, but it is really hard to bring a quarterback off the bench to throw a passing play and then bring him out. You almost never see quarterbacks alternate. Boise State did run a two-quarterback system to a certain extent in 2017 with Montel Cozart and Brett Rippon. But the primary guy was the passing quarterback. Montel Cozart would come in, who was the runner, and defenses would have to keep into account his running ability. He would sometimes throw, but he was primarily out there as the running option. And as the season progressed and Brett Rippon got a little bit more confident, recovered a little bit from that injury that took him out at the beginning of the season, you saw less and less and less of Montel Cozart. Two quarterback systems do not work. They just don't. You have to have a primary starter, and typically that primary starter is the passer. And really that's only the way to make that work, because you can't just bring a guy in raw off the bench and hope that he's going to be able to make a good throw. It doesn't usually work out. It's worked out so far for Boise State. They've gotten a little bit lucky with it. Max Benson being able to come off the bench raw and play well, but it doesn't typically work to throw a guy out there just situationally and pull him out as a passer. Since Maddox Madsen is the passer, if you are going to be playing him and you're going to be playing this offense, he should be the primary guy. Your alternate that comes in should be Taylor Green, based on what the cards that are being played for this Boise State team. So that's key number one. Make a clear choice. Whoever it is, stick with him and make him your guy. Number two is butt out. Plain and simple, Andy Avalos, defensive coordinator, defensive guy, defensive player, he does not know how to run offenses. It's just the truth. When you have most head coaches are offensive head coaches. And when they're out there, they might tinker a little bit with the defense, but they hire a good defensive coordinator that can do the job. And they're not out there making play call decisions for the defense because they don't know how to do that. That's not their wheelhouse. That's not their specialty. They bring in somebody to do that. Now you have a defensive head coach who is tinkering with this offense and who has totally minimized the offensive production and potential of his offensive coordinators. When Plow got a lot of heat, and some of it was deserved. But the biggest reason that Plow failed was because Andy Avalos did not allow him to run the offense that he wanted to run. He kept tinkering with it. He kept making him run a different style of offense than what he was actually most suited to run, which was an air raid style. He run a balanced attack. So he brings in Bush Hamden. He's your balanced attack guy. When you hire as a defensive-minded head coach, when you hire an offensive coordinator, that is where your input on the offense should end. You are making your decision, you're making your preference known by hiring someone who plays according to your preference. You got rid of the air raid style guy who couldn't run the balanced attack, and you brought in the balanced attack guy who, with a focus on the running game, Bush Hamden. That is the extent of your influence on the offense. Now you let your guy do it. That's his job. That's what he knows how to do. That's not what you know how to do. You don't run in on a brilliantly called 4th and 1 play at the goal line, call a timeout, and then send the field goal unit on. You don't continue to tinker with the offense and cause them to run systems that don't work. I don't know if that's happening with Bush Hamdan, but I know it happened with Plow, and if the trend continues, it's happening with Bush Hamdan too. So, Boise State here, if they want a chance to succeed, the guys that know how to do their job need to do their job and be allowed to do their job. Andy Avalos should be focusing on this defense. This defense is an absolute wreck right now. Whether it's the players that are out there not being put in the positions that they need to from an early start to come out and succeed. They seem to have started to find the guys that are going to work, but they're really tinkering with it. They don't know who they have, and they're kind of finding their way as they go throughout the season. But it doesn't really seem to matter who's out there. Boise State's still being exposed because this defensive scheme is not working. Andy Avalos has a lot of experience. He has a lot of knowledge. He should be working on this defense. Let the offense do its thing and work on the defense. There's a reason that defensive head coaches don't get hired a lot as a rule, because the offense is one of those systems that it really helps to have two minds on the job. It really does. And so I can see where Andy Avalos is coming from, as that's kind of the expectation, is that the head coach is going to be involved in the offense. However, if you are not an offensive guy, that is not your specialty. Just because you're the head coach does not mean that you should be influencing that. Boise State's offense should be being run by Bush Hamdan. Andy Avalos, he needs to be the manager of this, backing off and letting the offense do its job and letting them run the offense that is going to be most effective for the players that they have out there and whoever they make that decision with key number 1. Key number 3 is going to be play to win. There's another reason that defensive coordinators don't typically seem to be chosen as head coaches, and that's because there is a different focus. There's a different mindset as a defensive player versus an offensive player. I played both. I played defense and I played offense, and there's a different mindset when you're on defense versus when you're on offense. The way that you win football games is you score more points than the other team. Plain and simple. At a very, very macro level, that's how you win. You score more points than the other team. If neither team scores points, you tie. Defenses, their job is not to lose the game. Their job, very plain and macro level simple, is to keep the other team from scoring points so that their team does not lose the game. Offensive's job is to win the game. The offensive job is to go out and score more points than the other team so that their team wins. If the defense does their job perfectly, at the very best case scenario, without the offense, the very best case scenario is you tie, unless the other team makes a mistake and you're able to score. But that's the defense getting lucky. Their job is not to score. The very best case scenario is you just don't lose. The offense, if they do their job perfectly, you win. So at a very basic, macro, large picture level, and people are going to comment, defenses win championships. They do. Defenses win. They do. You need defenses to win. And the reason that typically that defenses win championships is that usually the focus is on the offense and not so much on the defense. So the teams that are able to focus on both are going to be the ones that go out and win. So yes, defenses do win. Every element of a team is needed to win. But the ultimate macro level job of each section is to win for offense and just don't lose for defense. That is the mindset that Andy Avalos is coaching with. That is the mindset that most defensive head coaches coach with. They run a running-based offense. Mike Variable is a perfect example. They run a running-based offense that allows their defense plenty of time to rest. Plenty of time to rest, keeps their defense fresh, extends the game, gives their team long drives that reduces the opportunity of the other team to score and allows their team to escape with a win. They're primarily focused on letting the defense prevent scoring opportunities for the other team. They're primarily focused on not losing the game. Offense does its job at a bare minimum. Other team has reduced opportunities to score, and the defense is strong. That's what defensive coordinators are focused on. And that's what you see with Andy Avalos' decision to run in, stop a great play call that I'm 100% sure would have worked based on the where the players were moving, where the defense was lined up, come in 4th and 1 in a situation where kicking a field goal does nothing. It just makes it a touchdown lead versus a field goal lead. Runs in, takes the offense off the field, and attempts a field goal, which again was going to do nothing. If Memphis then goes down and scores, They then are up. You did nothing to change the results of the game. Boise State right now is playing not to lose. They are playing hesitant. They're playing defensive. They're playing safe. Boise State has got to change the mindset, or they are not going to win through this season, and they're not going to be able to establish themselves back again as a dominant team in college football, as a top 25 programs. Top 25 programs don't play not to lose. They play to win, and they play to dominate you. The job of the offense. Andy Avalos has got to shift the mentality of this team, and it starts with him. Boise State has got to be more risk-taking. They have to be more bold. They have to pick their direction and go with it. I've always been told by all my mentors that it's better to be confidently wrong than to be both wrong and right, to be in between. Because if you're confidently wrong, at least you can be revectored. If you aren't either, if you're just mediocre, it's really hard to build on that and to point you towards success. Andy Avalos has, the season now hangs in the balance with Andy Avalos, what he decides to do with this team. And if Boise State's going to win, they have to make a clear choice on their quarterback. Andy Avalos has got to allow the offense to be the offense without his interference. And he has got to change the culture of this team, the mindset of this team, from let's try and not lose this game to we are going to go out and dominate regardless of what that means. We are going to go out and put our best foot forward and be the dominant team that Boise State teams have always been in the past. That every other Boise State team that played to win did. That's what Boise State's got to do. And his coaching job is going to hang in the balance based on if they can change that mindset or not. Because just inching their way through, barely beating these mid-level programs is not going to get Boise State to a Mountain West Championship game, and it's not going to get them back to being a top-tier program. And that is what Bronco Nation demands. Because we are not a mediocre G5 team. We are the best of the best in the group of five. Historically. That's the level. That's the expectation. Boise State shouldn't just be getting to 10 wins. They shouldn't just be getting to Mountain West Championship games. They should be in the top 25, competing for New Year's Six Bowls, and in the future, with the expansion of the playoffs, competing for the playoff. That's where Boise State is supposed to be. That is the expectation. And only a mindset that attacks that future aggressively, to quote an old Brian Harsin slogan, that attacks the future and that attacks the current status quo and is not just content with getting by, but with getting ahead. That is the only mindset that's going to lead Boise State back there. And that is the mindset that's got to be demonstrated versus San Jose State. Just winning versus San Jose State is not going to restore faith in this program. The mindset has to change. We have to see a different product and a different approach on the field for Boise State to reestablish themselves as Boise State in this game. So 3 keys: make a clear choice, butt out, and play to win. Overview. Andy's job hangs in the balance in this game. Every game the rest of the season, his job hangs in the balance. If they lose more than 2 games the rest of the stretch, if they lose 2 games the rest of the stretch, I think he will be gone by the end of the season. They have maybe 1 game to give up the rest of the year, get to a Mountain West Championship game, win that, and get to a bowl, and get to a 10-plus win season with a Mountain West Championship win in a bowl game. That, I think, is the only thing that is going to make his job secure leading forward. I think that if he gets through with 9 or 10 wins and he gets them to Mountain West Championship game and they're competitive but they don't win, maybe they keep him around for 1 more year at this point. He has a chance to prove it next season. So it's not necessarily he's got to do all these things to keep his job this year. He may have 1 more chance next year. But his future, whether that's this season or next season, hangs in the balance with this game and every other game, but especially this game after the performance and the decision-making that we saw last week versus San Diego State. And he knows that. He definitely knows that. And so I think we're going to see Boise State coming out and trying to put their best foot forward. But it's hard to put your best foot forward when you don't know whose feet you're running with. Because Boise State has a new quarterback system that's coming into this game, and it's a San Jose State team that is not going to be easy. I predicted a loss versus San Jose State in my season preview. Now, my reasoning was different. I thought that Boise State would, at this point in the season, be 4-1 with a loss only to Washington, and maybe be coming into this game a little overconfident and get caught sleeping against a San Jose State team that would be underrated but good. Obviously, they're not there. They're not going to be caught sleeping in this one. They are going to be ready to win. However, for different reasons, they could lose this game because this is a good San Jose State team and a Boise State team who doesn't know who they are. They are 116th right now in total defense, and they have been very, very vulnerable against the mobile quarterback, as I pointed out. It's an uneasy crowd, so it's not going. Bronco Nation will bring their game, and it will be rocking, but it's going to be an uneasy crowd who could be taken out of the game. They could be taken out of the game easily by San Jose State if they're able to get some momentum, because the crowd right now is not happy with this program. So it won't be hard to get that crowd a little bit standoffish. You've got a new look offensively. You don't know what it's going to look like. It's going to be unfamiliar for all the players out there. So you're almost starting the season anew. And it's a good visiting team that, like I said, has a good quarterback, a great wide receiver, and some other good wide receivers on the roster that's going to be able to attack you at your weak point. On the other side, San Jose State has allowed over 200 yards per game rushing this season. And Boise State has one of the best, probably in my opinion, the best running back in the Mountain West in Ashton Jeanty. Maybe some stiff competition there with Eldridge III over at Air Force, who's also a quality running back. But right there, one of the best running backs in the group of five in Ashton Jeanty, one of the best running backs in the country in Ashton Jeanty. And with some instability at the quarterback position, he's going to be relied on as a focal point, like he has been all season, but especially in this game. And there is some vulnerability there by San Jose State. They've also run against 2 Power 5 teams and Air Force, so that statistic is going to be a little bit warped. But there could be some opportunities in the running game for Ashton Jeanty, and also in the receiving game for the outlet pass with these quarterbacks coming in a little bit raw and having to adapt to the defense. I do believe that number 4 can run this offense. I absolutely believe that this offense was built for Maddox Matson, and that if he's given control, I think we're going to see a very efficient offense. The play calling so far has been good. It just hasn't been good for Taylon Green, which makes it bad because you're not calling it to the player you have on the field. But if you put a playmaker who can play the offense that you want to run, you could actually have a pretty good offense out here. And that's part of the reason Maddox Matson has looked so good, because this is an offense that is perfectly designed for the quarterback that he is, in addition to him also just being a stellar player with incredible heart and determinism. So the big question, though, is will he be allowed to play this offense? Will he be allowed to make his case and to develop consistency? Or is he always going to be getting yanked out back and forth? Any little mistake, now the next quarterback comes in, you're always playing looking over your shoulder. Is he going to be allowed to develop confidence and consistency? And is Andy Avalos going to allow this offense to be this offense? Is he going to allow the offense coordinator to do his job? Those last 2 parts, I don't know. I went back and forth on this prediction. I could easily see a loss. I could easily see a huge win. I could easily see Boise State coming out and winning this game by 40-plus points with Maddox Matson running this offense efficiently, putting up over 300 yards passing, a couple of wide receivers in the 100-yard digits, Ashton Jeanty having a huge game. I could see that. I could also see Boise State coming out here being an absolute wreck, neither quarterback developing consistency, a couple picks by both quarterbacks, or maybe 3 picks total, with those picks divided between the 3 quarterbacks. Neither one, like I said, developing consistency. Ashton Jeanty, now the only point of this offense that San Jose State is able to crowd in on, barely managing to get to 100 or less rushing yards, and San Jose State wins this game by a couple of touchdowns or a score. I could see both of those scenarios. I think I'm going to allow my fan side to help me make this prediction on this, because at the analyst side of me really is split between the 2. So the fan side of me is going to say Boise State win, but it is going to be narrow. It's going to be close. Boise State 27, San Jose State 24. An offense that shows promise under Maddox Matson, but still struggles because of that lack of consistency and because of that lack of being able to get in the game, develop yourself, and really not knowing which direction the offense wants to go with it, struggling between the balanced attack and the RPO between the 2 quarterbacks and not being able to find that perfect mesh, at least not in this first game, but doing enough to get to a score that gives the defense a chance to step up. Boise State's defense, stepping up, doing a better job. The defensive line has been doing a better job. The secondary has continued to struggle. But they've also shown that they can step up in moments. And for the first part of the first half and the first part of the second half versus Memphis, they were great. They just weren't able to put together a consistent game. And they were able to step up and play well overall versus San Diego State. So, Boise State's defense does enough to keep San Jose State out of it. San Jose State is not as potent a threat as Memphis. They don't have as consistent an offense overall this season. So Boise State's defense does enough to step up. We see a little bit of a change. Spencer Danielson, the highest paid coordinator on the staff, feels the pressure and does a good job of adjusting to this offense for San Jose State. And the defense does enough. And the Boise State offense, though rickety, keeps them in the game and gets them the win by 3 points. That is my final prediction. Boise State, a narrow win, boosted by the home crowd. They're going to be a big part of Boise State getting this win, and continues, though, to leave some questions, maybe a lot of questions, in the minds of the fans and the minds of this coaching staff as to what is the direction of this team and who is the quarterback that leads them the rest of this season. I don't think we're going to get final answers in this game. So I apologize for this being long. I try to keep these about the 30-minute mark, and we're almost at the 50-minute mark. But I think that it's understandable based on what this game means and the direction of this program. This is kind of almost a 2 videos in one. It's not just a preview of San Jose State, but it's a discussion about the rest of the season for Boise State and the future of Andy Avalos and the future of starters on this team like Taylon Green. There's a lot to discuss. I hope we have a good discussion in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. You've given me a lot to think about already in your responses to my game review. We had a great discussion there. It was the most commented video on so far this season. I had almost 200 comments on that video, so we had a good discussion, and we're still probably going to have some more discussions on that video as people continue to comment, and I hope we can have a good discussion on this one as well. Thanks so much for sticking with me all the way to the end. Let's go now and look at your guys' score predictions and have that discussion in the comments. So thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and as always, go Big Blue!